beers at parties. He'd have a beer, two tops. They might go off and sneak a cigarette so his wife wouldn't see. He rarely talked about his job as a congressman. In Washington, Hunter was a fixture on the bar scene, where he spent lavishly over $400 for 30 tequila shots at a bachelor party and countless fancy dinners. He also visited one of his favorite bars, sometimes multiple times a day, piling up thousands of dollars in tabs. On one occasion, or on multiple occasions, he would get in loud arguments with the patrons over the choice of music on the jukebox. And apparently he hated Celine Dion. How could you hate Celine Dion? It's okay, I don't like her that much either. But yeah, so those divergent lives between watering holes and halls of power in Washington and the suburban tracts and chain stores of Southern California intersected for years, prosecutors say, as Hunter and his wife funded their personal lives with campaign donations, the dimensions of which were revealed in the indictment last week. And that's very unfortunate. Because, these are all people, this is what happens when you believe in corrupt politicians. They take your, how are you gonna feel if you, donated money to this guy and he used it for, taking whiskey shots at bars or whatever, or tequila shots? What is this guy, who I could not imagine, I really could not imagine having donated to Duncan Hunter. I've never donated to any politician before. I've considered it with some, good progressive politicians, but, I don't really do it. But, if I had donated to Duncan Hunter, I do not know, if I lived in, Southern California or something like that, and I was hey, may I throw this guy a few bucks? It's actually probably surprising considering how much, corporate PAC money he probably takes. It's surprising to me anyway that, he gets small dollar donations. Because, it's just something that's, how does he get a small dollar donation? It's probably, the biggest corporate out there. But still, he seemed to get it and enough to spend it on a lot. Yeah, Hunter once boasted a glittering political resume that touched all the right notes in his conservative district. He was a war hero, father to 3 young children, scion of a political dynasty in California where his father held power for almost 30 years. So he used that. He got grandfathered in, or maybe just fathered in, to his seat that he holds today, or will not hold for very much longer. So, pretty much what happens is that's a very similar situation with Joe Crowley, the person who Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez beat in Arkansas. In New York. I don't know where Arkansas came from there. But here's the thing, it's just something that so many people hate about politics. It's such an annoying thing. If you got your, just literally a plain old corrupt person, a completely corrupt person, come in and just say, just get grandfathered in like that. How are you supposed to stop that? And that's one of the main problems that we have with our system today. And I just could not imagine if I had ever donated to that guy how I would be feeling right now. So pretty much what the thing is, for all his apparent appeal as a congressman, the unspooling of Hunter's life has laid bare the reservations among associates and friends who've long wondered whether his politics was a career path he'd ever really wanted to fulfill. He'd probably get pressured in. His dad maybe forced him. But now, whatever promise he'd been threatened with, the possible far-reaching consequences for the party and his personal life are becoming even more far-reaching. This indictment, with interviews that has interviews with those who know him and his own personal statements, show a seemingly ideal political life unraveled under personal financial pressure and idiocy. Opening the door to a web of corruption and deception that lasted several years as Hunter seemingly lived a dual life, the New York Times reports. So that is some pretty crazy stuff, just to say the least, as, he really he's watching his life unravel here before him, and there's nothing he can do about it. So this whole crisis was the same thing. It was a crisis of his own making, which kind of makes it all the more better. And now the fact is, he's trying to blame it down on the deep state, which is funny. he's running against a first-time Democratic opponent who's the son of an Arab father and a Mexican mother. He still maintains a pretty strong chance of re-election, even with his corruption scandal. Still, voters have this stuff to confront. That's for sure. Without that corruption scandal, he probably would have been reelected. The 47-page indictment that outlines the years of allegations that Hunter and his wife spent almost $250,000 on campaign money and personal expenses, which is illegal, and that was a problem that they're still facing today. They ran. There's a picture of them. This New York Times article is him and his wife Margaret at the finish line of the rock and roll half marathon that they ran in San Diego, and that's so adorable. Yeah, in 2008, on the heels of 3 combat tours as a Marine, including service in Iraq during the Battle of Fallujah, Hunter was elected to run to the congressional seat once held by his father, who had decided to run for president. He was a reluctant politician by many accounts, but he did this. He got a little bit too comfortable, and he got corrupt. What do you know? What do you know? All right, speaking of corruption and reform of corruption in the DNC, a 2-year effort to unite the Democratic Party after a divisive 2016 presidential election, reports Splinter, has resulted in a key vote Saturday to significantly reduce the influence of superdelegates at the DNC's summer meeting in Chicago. Most of the approximately 400 members who decided to prevent superdelegates from voting on the first ballot at a presidential nominated convention unless a candidate would win, regardless of superdelegate influence, HuffPost reported. So pretty much what that means is here, I just want to go read through it again. They will prevent superdelegates from voting at the first ballot of the convention unless a candidate would win regardless. So pretty much they would not get to vote unless there was like no shot. Like even if all the superdelegates went to the loser, the person who had the superdelegates before would still win. So pretty much like if someone was just crushing another person in the nomination, then all the superdelegates would switch sides to that person. If the person had them before was still winning, it would be the same. So that's pretty much what that means there. It's a very good thing, and then they can vote supposedly on the second ballot if it's all not decided originally. So the change was part of a broad group of reforms discussed following the 2016 election, who was backed by DNC Chairman Tom Perez and supporters of Bernie Sanders, who believe the Vermont senator was at a disadvantage against rival Hillary Clinton in the campaign for a 2016 presidential nomination, as Clinton received 4 million more primary votes in caucuses than Sanders, according to the Associated Press. Once you lose an election, you got to look in the mirror, Howard Dean, former DNC chairman, said to the New York Times, talking about the 2016 election. As a so-called superdelegate myself, I feel this is the best path forward. It is exactly the kind of change we have to make, and not just to strengthen our candidates, but to strengthen the view of the Democratic Party among its core group of voters, which is young Americans. We have made these changes because it's never too late to do the right thing. Michael Kapp, a DNC member from California and a Clinton supporter, said, according to Huffington Post. Selena Vickers, who went on a week-long hunger strike to advocate for reform to the superdelegate system, said it's kind of really bizarre to be on the same side as Perez on these issues, and I'm glad we are. So they got a key ally there in Perez, someone who is going to come in and really help them through a lot of these issues, or at least this issue in particular, which is something that really kind of surprised me, because through looking at this entire situation, I was much more convinced that he would be on the side of the superdelegates, because he is obviously the establishment choice. Keith Ellison was in the race for the DNC chairmanship. Keith Ellison was the progressive choice, and that's just kind of the way it was. But until now, we are seeing some real changes in that situation. So. In the end, supporters of the reform won by a margin of 3-1. The approval's announcement to a standing ovation from progressive Democrats, which is pretty cool stuff. All right, speaking of someone who a little sketchy today, a little sketchy just to say the least, who's been actually just acting up in the news a lot, is Lanny Davis. Yeah, so Lanny Davis last week, after President Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, accepted a plea deal admitting to making illegal campaign contributions and more, Splinter reports, Cohen's lawyer Lanny Davis told multiple reporters, quote-unquote, on background that Cohen may bring evidence of Russian collusion to special counsel Robert Mueller, which could be a very big deal. And then, of course, we all went in and trusted Lanny Davis. Anyone who had the slightest bit of familiarity with Davis's career should be unsurprised to hear that he spent the weekend walking back his explosive statements. Washington Post reports, quote, Davis did not rule out his claims were correct, but expressed regret that he did not explain he could not independently corroborate them, saying that he now believes he should have been more clear. Davis told the Washington Post that he cannot confirm any reports. Cohen is prepared to tell special counsel Robert Mueller III that Trump had advanced knowledge of the 2016 Trump Tower meeting, so he can't corroborate it. Yeah. He can't even say that he's going to do it. That's right. Davis can't confirm the rumors he spread to the media. That's some good stuff. Like, this what should really serve to be is a lesson, really, for the media, the mainstream media, just in general. Like, don't trust anything Lanny Cohen says. It's just that simple. Lanny Davis says, not Lanny Cohen, or Michael Cohen, really, either. Because, like, what we got to do is we just got to wait until we get established sources, not partisan lawyers who are obviously representing one side or another. It's just that simple. From the information in the Post story, which was attributed to one person filming with discussions among Cohen's friends, came from Davis, who is now acknowledging his role on the record. Davis said he should have been. My phone went off there. That's great. Really showing my commitment to the show. But this sure puts the Post, who reported the story on Davis's claims, in an awkward position. They should have known better than to trust Davis. Let's just be real about that. The moral of the story is, wait for reliable sources. And if Lanny Davis says something, you don't have to not report it. He's saying this, but now he's walking it back. That's how it should be reported. It should not be reported as a truism. It should be reported as something that one lawyer said that now he has to walk back, which is a little bit disappointing. So, yeah, the realm of possible is rather expansive, to say the least. It's possible Trump is part of an international cabal of lizard people set on taking over the universe. In fact, at this point, it sounds more likely than Davis's comments about Cohen having the dirt. I'll have the Lizard King. Let's go for Lanny Davis or Donald Trump. Whoever is the Lizard King, I hail you. Whatever. All right, yeah, so we move on now as we teach the press a little bit of a lesson there. Lanny Davis teaches the press a little bit of a lesson that they most likely will not learn, to someone who the press happens to love, John McCain, and someone the press happens to hate, Donald Trump. It's hardly a secret that Donald Trump and John McCain were not exactly best buds while McCain was still alive. Now that the Republican senator died, obviously following a lengthy battle with brain cancer, Trump is not going to be any nicer. Let's just put it that way. Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Chief of Staff John Kelly, and other White House aides advocated for an official statement that gave decorated Vietnam War prisoner of war John McCain plaudits for his military and Senate service and called him a hero, in quotes, according to current and former White House aides who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive internal deliberations. The original statement was drafted before McCain died Saturday, and Sanders, Sanders and the others edited a final version this weekend that was ready for the president, it said. But instead of releasing a statement that would have contradicted its previous instances that McCain is not a war hero, McCain voluntarily stayed as a prisoner of war for 5 years, during which time he was repeatedly tortured. Trump instead told his top aides he'd just tweet something out instead. No official proclamation, no official praise from the White House, which, I mean, for McCain's family, is probably going to be pretty disappointing. So, yeah, which is really some incredible stuff here from Trump. He says, my deepest sympathies and respect go out to the family of Senator John McCain. Our hearts and prayers are with you. That's other than the First Lady's statement. That was the only thing that really came out of the White House officially. It's just really deep. It's emotional. It's like, that's probably like something a random guy would say if they saw John McCain. Not the president. Yeah. It's even worse on Instagram, though, where Trump overlaid the quote and added a somber picture of himself looking deep off into the distance. And the caption was the exact same thing. So, yeah. So then, briefly lowering the White House flags to half-mast, the Trump administration ignominiously hoisted them high again on Monday morning to the